Yo, Coach Alice Cloudy here, bringing you another episode of Cloudy Courtside Chat. A lot of basketball to get into, so let's go ahead. Actually, before we get started, go like, go follow. We have a Twitter page up, Cloudy Courtside Chat. Go subscribe to our YouTube channel, Cloudy Courtside Chat. Our YouTube channel will not only have audio, but we'll also be adding some video and pictures and media quality that we can find of these programs, these coaches, and these athletes. With that being said, let me bring on my brother, my mentor, and the Shelby County Chamber of Commerce Young Citizen of the Year, Marlon Cloudy Jr.
Yo, what's going
Let's
on,
go.
man?
What's up, my brother? Man, let me go ahead and say
Oh,
on air how proud I am of you, man. You keep setting the bar high. Young Citizen
yes,
of the
sir.
Year. Let's
Appreciate
go.
it. Appreciate it, brother. Appreciate it. Definitely honored and what surprise. So now I got to start living up to it.
Okay, you already doing that. That's how you want it. All right, let's jump right into it, man. We'll start off with, man, it seems like these coaches just keep giving us stuff to talk about every week. We started with Coach Harry and Coach Boston, 400 wins. Last week we got to go see Kirbyville and Kountze and Coach Jew get his 600 win. And we're scrolling on social media after last night's games, and the GOAT, Coach Schmitt, he coached TD. Where did he coach TD at, Leno?
He coached TD at
Coach TD at
Elgin,
Elgin.
outside of Austin.
Small world. TD and Marlon played college basketball, excuse me, together up at Tarleton. We know Coach Schmitt, of course, from Shelbyville and the state championships he's brought to Shelby County. He's now in Mount Pleasant, Chapel Hill, and he has reached the milestone of 700 wins. Congratulations to Coach Schmitt, the GOAT, somebody that I look up to personally because he definitely helped my career when he didn't have to. And that's a story that I'll go into later. But congratulations, Coach Schmitt.
Yeah, we've seen a few of those wins up at the Holiday Hoops tournament. You was unfortunately on the other side of the sideline on a few of those wins, but 700, man. I guess next week we're gonna have an East Texas coach go for 800 because it seems like we get a new milestone, like you said, every week. But hats off to Coach Schmidt and what he's done for the game of basketball and how he teaches it, how he coaches it. Definitely proud of that accomplishment for him, and he deserves it. And I'm looking forward to seeing his team do some great things this year.
No doubt. They're off to a blazing start. Keep my story very short. Like you said, I was on the losing end of a couple of those wins for Coach Schmidt. It's hard to beat a legend like him, especially when he has a dope like Jay Buckley and the guys that he had around him. But long story short, like I said, Coach Schmidt undefeated in district. This is my third year in Garrison. We turned the program around. Myself, Coach Berge, made it to the playoffs. We run a dogfight, actually a three-way tie for second place. And normally when you're undefeated in a district champ, you walk in that meeting and you're the coach of the year. And Coach Smith said, "No, I don't want that honor. Coach Cloudy deserves it for what he's done with that program over in Garrison." So hats off to you, Coach Smith. I'll never forget that. I appreciate you for that right there. And that also speaks volumes to the man that you are. So thank you, Coach Smith. And congratulations again. Moving on to the game of the week, the one that we went to watch. We traveled to Broaddus Friday night to see the undefeated in district St. Augustine Wolves take on the Broaddus Bulldogs. And man, St. Augustine is they're much better than people think they are. They're better than I thought they were. I knew they were athletic. I knew they were long, but when you saw them in Holiday Hoops, anybody that did see them up there, we did not see anything that they put on the floor, anything compared to what they put on the floor Friday night.
Yeah, well, like you said, back in December, we had a chance to talk to Coach Torrey Barnes and sit with him watching the game, and he made us aware of some injuries they had, some sickness that they had. A couple players didn't make the tournament, and so I think we saw a totally different team. A couple players were just
Mm-hmm.
now coming back. Now they're in a groove. They're in basketball shape. They're much longer. They got length and more athletic and taller than I thought too. Looking at them from afar,
Yeah.
we were able to get down on the court and talk to a couple of those guys. I mean, they're 6'2", wingspan, like they're 6'6". They're athletic. They fly around. Coach Randall really has them defending right now at a high level.
Yes, sir.
And they're currently sitting at 12-8 overall, but they're on a 7-game winning streak. So they were 5-8 at one point, but once they got those guys back and got their chemistry up, they reeled off 7 in a row and leading that district over there. And like I said, they're a totally different team than what they were back in December.
No doubt, man. And the on ball pressure, and you add that with the athleticism and defending at the rim. You can tell they're working on being vertical and staying straight up in practice because they were defending and making every shot tough. So that'll
Mm-hmm.
be a tough matchup for somebody from District 23 when we make it to the postseason. I can't wait to get there. And speaking
Right,
of District
right.
23, last week we talked about Shelbyville and how we thought they should be ranked, and they weren't. And they go from unranked to number 12 in the rankings. What's your take on that?
Well, I think it's well deserved. I mean,
No
you
doubt.
you played Timpson and Beckville, who we talked about were number 3 and 4 in the state at that time in the same week. You go on the road to Timpson and beat them. So you get a top 5 road win in a tough district. That has to jump off the page to the people that's doing the rankings. And then you have the number 3 team in the state at your place, and you got them down 12 at half, which they ended up losing that game to Beckville. But just based on what they did that week and how they can compete, and they've been on the roll. We
Yes,
talk
sir.
about teams and what they've been doing since December. Shelbyville is one of those teams that's kind of hitting their groove. We talked about DJ getting healthy and playing his first game at Holiday Hoops of the season, and now he's starting to get into his rhythm. So, the rankers they took note of it. I think that was a high jump. Not
Hmm.
saying that it was undeserved, but when you went from unranked to number 12, but that's just the type of ball that Shelbyville has been playing. So, um, congratulations to them, Coach Wager, that whole Dragon team and staff, and man, that dish is going to be fun to watch because I think we got another week to talk about, some scores that happened this past week
Yeah.
in that district.
Let's go ahead and talk about the Tigers. We haven't mentioned them much on the podcast this year,
Mm-hmm.
but they're in that district of doom. That's what I call it. You have Timpson, who was top 5, that dropped now to number 17. You have Beckville, who's still a top 3 team. You have Shelbyville, who's now jumped into the top 25. And you have the Tigers, who always find a way to be in games and always find a way to win. We were just talking about this, to win a big playoff game. So
Right.
they're sitting on the border right now of that fourth and fifth spot after a huge loss to Garrison. And this was a huge week for them. And they had Timpson at home on Tuesday and they Bill on Friday. And they were in both of those contests, giving two state ranked teams everything they wanted. And but they just couldn't find a way to get over that hump, man.
Right. Yeah, and most teams, you start to see losses build up, uh, and it kind of carries over into the next games. I'm not sure if you'll ever see that from Tenaha. We were talking to one coach a few days ago, and he was talking about a potential playoff matchup down the road with that District 23 and those teams, and he was like, one team that you know, I don't mind playing, but I would hope to avoid is Tenaha, just
Mm-hmm.
because number one, they always think they can win. Like they
Yes.
won state championships in football, state championship in basketball. They've seen winning. They've done it on the court, on the field. So that's worth points, especially in a playoff game.
Yeah,
Because your
confidence.
kids that aren't used to being in that situation, oh, how are we going to show up? That's a
Mm-hmm.
coach's biggest fear sometimes. Like, what are we going to look like? In Tenaha, those kids think they can win, and so they'll be a tough out. If they are able to string some wins together. And man, they had a great opportunity to get themselves right back into the playoff race. They're still in the mix, but to put themselves into a playoff spot, getting that win against Timpson or Beckville, which being up under a minute, you hope to pull those kind off at home, but Beckville showed why they're first place team in the district and top 5 in the state. Just showed composure, finished down the stretch, but another reason, the second reason that coach said he does not want to play Tenaha in the playoffs is because of Pooh Moore. And
That's a bad boy.
man, you got to have great team chemistry. You got to have a good plan, but sometimes that stuff goes out the window in a big game. And Pooh showed you why.
Yeah.
Against Beckville, a big part of the reason why that they were in that and up with a minute to go, had a chance to close it out because I was watching it, but I didn't realize exactly how many points he had. I could tell, listen to people talk, he was filling it up, but a 40 ball,
40
my
piece.
goodness.
It's tough. We just talked about a kid last week scoring 40, and here we are in this week with another kid going 40 plus. Man, that's impressive.
Right. And the thing that scares coaches is, he didn't do it against the last place team in district. Like
No.
he's doing this against the first place number 3 team in the state. So if he can do it against them, he can get off at any time. Hence him doing it. I think he went for 28,
Against
right at
Timpson.
30 against Timpson.
Yes,
So
sir.
Pooh had a huge week, and that's one reason that we talked about him on our first episode. Yes, because he's a baller. He is a
Yeah,
flat out scorer, basketball player. Like somebody told me, he came out the womb with a basketball in his hand.
I believe
and
it.
yeah, yeah. But shout out to him and the week that he had, and just encouraging those Tigers keep fighting, and you'll get over that hump soon.
Yes, sir. And one thing about him, he's always been a big time player. And big time players make big time plays in huge games. So he's always gonna show up and he's always gonna set the tone for the Tigers. So that's another team to look out for when we start talking about potential playoff matchups in the coming weeks. 3A rankings are not gonna shake up much. We still have Mount Pleasant, Chapel Hill, who we previously mentioned, Hooks, Kountze, all at 5, 6, and 7 respectively. You have Westwood, who went 2-0 this week, a huge win over Franklin in overtime. That Franklin ball club took down Mexia. They were ranked early in the year, but of course they played the state football championships, and it's tough to judge people when they're coming in so late. But Franklin, that's a tough district as well. So Westwood's still at 12 after that big win over Franklin, another big win on Friday night. Tatum still at 13, 2 huge wins this weekend. And Mexia, like you said, we took that loss to Franklin. They were at 17, so we'll see what happens to them in the coming rankings. Moving on to 4A, real quick before we jump into the rankings, I just want to give a shout out to Dre'lon Miller for eclipsing the 2,000 point mark for his career. He joins his teammate, his backcourt mate, two-headed monster of Jared Harris. He also eclipsed 2K earlier this year. How blessed is Coach Sigler to have not only one but two guys who can just flat out fill it up?
Well, it's a premium, especially making a playoff run. We always look at guard play when it comes to trying to win a national championship or a state championship, and you got two guards that have scored 2,000 career points, and that's saying a lot. Especially Miller, because he's been on the football field for a lot of
Yeah,
those games and missed a lot of games. So I mean that is
yeah,
that
like
that make you sleep a lot better at night as a coach, knowing you got guards that can put the ball in the hole like that. And he's seen a few guards come through in the past decade through Silbee, but he's very blessed. Like I know there's a lot of coaches in the state that would love to have two guards that can do it like those two gentlemen. So hats off to y'all. Congratulations on 2,000 career points, and man, Silbee Tigers. I'm excited to see them.
yes, sir. That's another regional tournament. I know it was crazy last year. Silsbee Center and the two schools out of the Houston area. Excited to see who can make the push and get down there to Bryan this year. But like you said, he's very blessed, and I know I can't see into the future, but I am quite sure that he has another guard on that team right now that's a freshman that will be at this 2,000 point mark before his career is over with. Jumping ahead to 5A, we had a crucial battle for first place and down in District 16, right here in our backyard between the Lufkin Panthers, who we talked about last week, and the Nacogdoches Dragons. Both of them were sitting at 2-0 coming into this matchup, and Lufkin defeated Nac 50-45 to take the one game lead in the district. What are your thoughts on District 16 5A and how well Lufkin is playing at the moment? And how, I mean, Nac as well. They're surprisingly playing some good basketball, and nobody seems to be talking about what the Dragons are doing this year.
Well, yeah, I saw a couple of their scores early in the year just because it was center. I think they beat center by about 25, 30, and Chapel Hill, who was in center's district, who's ranked in the top 25 for 4A. I think they
Hmm.
beat them by about 15, 20.
Yep, two
And,
tough teams.
that's two pretty good ball clubs. I don't care what classification they are. You got to show up and play against Center and Chapel Hill, and Nacogdoches beating them so handily. Um, I was anxious to see what they would look like in district because we've talked about Lufkin and what they present and how good they play, what Coach McManus is doing with that ball club, and man, it obviously formulated on the court like it was supposed to on paper. Um, with Lufkin pulling out a 5 point win, but that's one that I'm anxious to see how the district shakes out. I'm really expecting those two to be at the top, with Huntsville being a contender as
Hmm.
well, trying to get that district crown, and team out of Kingwood Park down there, and who's traditionally good at that level in that district. Made a couple deep runs a few years ago, um, but right now Lufkin's sitting on top of the district, and if everybody plays their cards right, they could be playing Nacogdoches, which is one of the biggest, oldest rivalries,
Yes,
especially here in
sir.
East Texas. Not only in football, but also on the basketball court.
Bring it to the
Um,
hardwood.
yeah, so
I remember
playing
when
for a district
Nacogdoches and
championship.
Lufkin. I remember when they couldn't even have fans in the stadium. That's how crazy that rivalry, how crazy it gets, and it's very crucial. Like you mentioned, that district championship. Everybody, you want to be the district champs because it's it gets down to those matchups once again in the first and second round, especially the first round of the playoffs. With four teams making it, I'd rather play the fourth place team from that opposing district than the third or the second place team. So these games are all going to be crucial when we're coming down the stretch here into the second round of district. And speaking of district championships and big games and matchups potentially in the playoffs and trying to go for the one seed over the two seed, we have a couple big games coming up this week in East Texas that we have to mention. And let's start with in 2A, we have Martinsville hosting LaPoyner.
Woo! That is going to be. Where is that going to be at? Is that in Martinsville?
That's going to be in Martinsville. You got Coach Jenkins and Coach Reed.
Well, I'll tell you this. If you getting a ticket to that game, you better get it by Monday afternoon because you won't be able to get a ticket to that place on Tuesday.
Standing
Both of
room
those
only.
communities are passionate about basketball. They are basketball communities. They have history of winning, and man, I would love to be there, but unfortunately, our bookings are already preoccupied with another place.
And speaking of, well, we will be following that game and keeping up with it. And speaking of the other place, we're gonna be right here, baby. We got a long 3 minute drive over to Center High School to watch the Rough Riders of Center take on Coach AJ Johnson and the Chapel Hill Bulldogs for. I mean, let's just go ahead and
That's for first
call a
place. That's
spade a
what,
spade. This is
yeah.
for the district championship.
Well, I say it's for first place because the district championship, if they both take care of business and do what they're supposed to do, the district championship is going to come. Well, seeding purposes is going to come
Yeah.
at the end of the year in their tiebreaker game. But like I said, if Center wins, then they should share district championships, which will add to Coach Harrison's total here while he's been a Rough Rider. And if Chapel Hill pulls it out, then that all but sews up a district championship for Coach Johnson. So I will make sure we get there early. We make sure we get us a good seat because you got to be up close and personal to watch this one.
OG, Coach Harrison, Coach Michael Cloudy. This is going to be a game that you don't want to miss. It's going to be jam packed, and like we said, it's for all the marbles. So definitely excited to be in the building Tuesday night when Center and Chapel Hill face off for the district title.
All right. Speaking of district titles, let's go ahead and talk about Tyler Legacy up there. They play in that district with the Rockwall and Mesquite schools, the DFW area, and right now they're in a three-way tie for first place. And I know you might have a little insight onto that program and that staff, so talk a little bit about them and kind of the things that they got going with their program.
Man, first of all, shout out to Coach Kyle Smith over at Tyler Legacy. Um, he realized what we're doing with our platform, how we're trying to gain exposure for the athletes, the coaches, and the programs here in Beast, Texas. He hit me up on Twitter. Not many people will do that. So that says a lot about the kind of guy that Coach Smith is. Shout out to him, his staff. We actually know AV's on the staff. Former, yeah,
AB.
he can go flat out hoop.
Yeah,
Played a little
yeah,
professional ball overseas. Did you
yeah.
recruit AB?
Yes, sir. We recruited AB recruited him out of high school. This is how special he was. Recruited him out of high school, recruited him out of JUCO, tried to recruit him out of 4-year school. AB,
We're
I
gonna keep
mean,
recruiting.
we just and guess what? We're probably gonna start recruiting for a coaching staff soon. Sorry, Coach Smith. But no, he stand-up guy. Like really, like you said, really talented basketball player. But I saw a post that was shared about him and what he's doing with that freshman team at Tyler Legacy and that program. With the foundation being set like he's doing with building relationships and teaching the game and knowing the game at a high level. That makes a difference.
That is.
And then being able to teach that, that's another thing that helps a head coach sleep peacefully at night. So shout out to AB and definitely encouraged to see another young basketball player getting into the coaching ranks and teaching the things that he learned.
Yes, sir. And speaking of, Tyler Legacy has reeled off 4 wins in a row. And like you said, that has them tied for first place over there in their district. So Coach Smith has come from the San Antonio area, revitalized that legacy program. Uh, I saw a couple of clips on Twitter. They have this kid number 1, Jaden Jones. He can flat out, he can fill it up. And not only can he shoot the basketball, he can create his own shots. He is athletic. His first clip on Huddle, which you will see on our video that we'll add. I mean, he is throwing down a monster jam. So they have that program headed in the right direction. Good luck to Coach Smith, AB, the Tyler Legacy team and program moving forward.
Yeah, so and that's a big thing. You talked about getting players out there, getting coaches out there, and programs in East Texas. That's what we want to be about. So Coach Smith, I do want to applaud that. I do want to recognize that, and share that we do have coaches out here advocating for players to get the notoriety, to hopefully get recognition of. It just takes one school, it takes one coach to recognize you, to want you for a player to make it to the next level. And if we can help do that, I my hats go out to coaches that go above and beyond, like Coach Smith did, reaching out to you because a lot of coaches won't do it. They go to practice, do their thing, they go home, and that's it. But Coach Smith, kudos to going outside of, I call it outside the 9-to-5 work and advocating and putting your players out there on a platform.
I mean, that's what we're in this for. That's what I signed up to do this for, to help the next generation reach their dreams and their goals and get to where they want to be. And so we appreciate you, Coach Smith, Coach Michael over in Hooks does a good job of it on social media. Coach Jew and his staff, they do a good job of it as well on their platforms. So if any coaches want to share program milestones, player milestones, please reach out to us. We'll advocate on behalf of you and your program. You can hit us up on our Twitter at Cloudy Courtside Chat. We also have TikTok. That's what the younger generation likes to use. So we're trying to get on all these platforms that not only the kids are on, but also coaches are on. YouTube, we're also there. Go subscribe, go follow, go like, go share our content. Because once again, we're just all about exposing bEASTx basketball. With that being said, man, we're gonna go ahead and sign out this episode of Cloudy Courtside Chat. Appreciate you joining me, brother.
Yes, sir. Y'all have a good one.